In the next composite image we're going to work on, we're actually going to begin by merging some photos using the Merge to HDR Pro command, which is an automated command. Let's click on the word File on our menu. Let's point to Automate. And then let's select Merge to HDR Pro. This opens our Merge to HDR Pro dialog box, and you'll notice at the top it gives us a little paragraph explaining a little bit of what this command does. What this command does is it combines multiple images of an identical scene with different exposures. And here it says to choose 2 or more files from a set of exposures to merge. There are some tips to be considered before you actually take the pictures if you're planning ahead. They suggest using a tripod to minimize the movement of your camera. They suggest at least 3 photos should be taken that cover the full dynamic range of the scene. They suggest that you vary the shutter speed to create different exposures, and to not change your lighting. So for example, if you're going to use a flash, it needs to be used on every single shot. If you're not going to use a flash, then you don't use it at all. You don't use it on any of your shots. And finally, you want to try and take pictures that there are no moving objects or items in the picture. For example, people or cars or animals. Okay, under the Use, we have 2 options. We can select an entire folder or we can select files. We're going to browse to our Chapter 4 folder, so we're going to use the Files option. And we want to select HDR 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you'll see here, just to take a quick look at the thumbnails, we're looking at a picture off the coast of Corpus Christi, and this is actually not a picture that was changing exposures on the camera, but it was a time-lapse picture. So we're actually getting pictures of various times as the sun is setting in Corpus. So the exposure in the sky, the natural exposure in the sky, is being changed as the sun sets. So we want to select all 4 of these pictures. So I'm going to hold down my Command key on a Mac or Shift key on Windows and select all 4 images and click Open. All 4 images are now listed in my Merge to HDR Pro dialog box, and you'll see by default the option to attempt to automatically align source images is checked. I'm going to go ahead and leave that checked, and a tripod was not used for this. So I'm going to click OK, and you'll see Photoshop working its magic. It's combining the 4 images. And now we're in another Merge to HDR Pro dialog box where we see the 4 thumbnails of the image, and down here at the bottom you can actually turn off each individual image to see what influence it had or impact it had on the final result. And you'll notice as I turn these on and off, the ripples in the water have moved. So we had some motion in our picture because of the water. On the right hand side of our dialog box, you'll notice there are some presets. There's a preset menu at the top, and then there's some areas that you can customize. Your edge glow, your tone and detail, and your advanced. This is for a 16-bit image. If we click where it says 16-bit next to mode, you'll see HDR images can be worked with 8-bit, 16-bit, or 32-bit. And our options would change based on the number of bits that we're working with. So Photoshop chose 16 bits as our option when it analyzed the photos. And you'll notice at the top it actually created a custom preset. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of the presets that are available. I want us to compare the 3 different versions of high contrast. We have monochromatic high contrast, photorealistic high contrast, and surrealistic high contrast. Let's start at the top of the list with monochromatic high contrast. You'll notice that selection changes our picture to essentially grayscale, and things get really dark and we lose some of the detail. Now let's take a look at photorealistic high contrast. This one, again, it brought in some richer tones, some darker parts of our image, and we've got our color back. And then finally, surrealistic high contrast, where we lost some of the detail, and I think we lost a little bit of our color, and it got a little too dark there in the middle. Again, these presets will appear totally different depending on the images that you're working with. Let's go ahead and choose photorealistic high contrast. And notice underneath the preset there's an option to select remove ghosts. That option is available if you had movement in your image that you could not control. For example, in this image we have the water ripples. So if I check remove ghosts, you'll notice that it brings back some of the ripples, which actually gives a little bit more detail and a little more composition to our image. It makes it more attractive. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that, and you'll notice now the preset is custom again because I went ahead and selected remove ghosts. And when I click on remove ghost and hold it, you'll see here it says it attempts to remove ghosts caused by moving objects. So it does give us I'm going to go and check it. It does tell us what things are going to do if we take the time to read those little dialog boxes and those tip boxes that pop up for us. Let's go ahead and click OK. And Photoshop combines these 4 images into a single layer. And in our case, it's now named background and it's locked. Let's unlock our background layer and rename it. So we're just going to double click on background in our layers panel, and we're going to rename this sky. And we're going to click OK.